Shadows over Vienna. The sky above Vienna burned gold and ash, touched by the sun's dying light and the breath of 1,000 campfires. Beyond the fortress walls, the Ottoman army, over 100,000 strong, waited. Tents stretched to the horizon. Drums beat like distant thunder. And within the stone heart of the city, people prayed, baked bread from sawdust, and watched the shadows grow long. They called it the last bastion of Christendom. And yet, few inside the walls believed deliverance would come. But one man still moved through those crumbling alleys with purpose, eyes sharp, cloak tattered, boots worn smooth. His name was Elias Drexler. He was a scout for the city guard, once a soldier in the Polish cavalry. Now, a man with secrets buried deeper than the tunnels beneath Vienna. The siege begins. When the Ottomans arrived in mid-July, they came like a tide, janissaries in disciplined ranks, sappers with shovels and barrels of powder, archers on horseback. They raised their black banners and pitched their tents like an empire of cloth. Inside Vienna, the city's defenders numbered barely 15,000. The walls were strong, but their food was not. Powder was low. Water flowed slowly. Panic faster. Elias watched from a ruined bell tower. A spyglass in one hand, a musket strapped to his back. He'd fought in Hungary, lost half his company in a border skirmish, and learned the art of silence. But what he saw now chilled him more than any battlefield. The Ottomans weren't rushing. They were waiting. Digging. Undermining the walls. Starving the soul from the city. Time was their weapon. And time, Elias feared, was a traitor. The hidden tunnel. A week into the siege, Elias was summoned by the commander of the city guard, Count Ernst Rudiger von Starhemberg, a man proud, lean, and sleepless. "You know the city's bones," the count said. "The old tunnel beneath the Kartna gate, is it intact?" Elias nodded. "Collapsed in part. But passable." The count leaned close. "A message must reach the Polish king. Sobieski. The empire drags its feet. Only he can move fast enough. Can you get out?" Elias thought of the enemy's siege lines, the patrols, the hungry wild dogs that wandered at night. "I'll try." He left that night, carrying a satchel of sealed letters and a single silver medallion bearing the imperial crest. In the catacombs beneath Vienna, the air was damp and sacred. Above, the war raged. Below, the bones of saints and soldiers lined the walls. Elias passed them with reverence, whispering a prayer not for victory, but for mercy. The man in the fog. He emerged from the tunnel 3 miles outside the southern gate, through a crumbling stone well. The moon was full. Mist curled like breath from the fields. He moved at night, hid by day. Near the Danube's bend, he saw movement. A rider. Alone. Elias ducked into the reeds. But the rider turned toward him. "Drexler." The voice was quiet. Familiar. It was Casimir's. The quartermaster from his old regiment. "What in God's name?" "Word travels," Casimir said, grinning. "And so do favors. The king already rides south. He waits for proof that Vienna still holds. Elias handed over the letters and the medallion. They hold, he said. But barely. Kazimierz nodded. Then ride with me. The king's oath. King Jan III Sobieski was no ordinary ruler. He camped with his men, slept in tents, rode a warhorse taller than any Elias had ever seen. When Elias entered the king's command tent, the king stood alone at a table, tracing his finger along a map inked with blood and wax. "You saw it yourself?" the king asked. "Yes. The sappers. Every day. The walls are thin." The king turned. "Then we ride not in weeks, but in days." And so they did. The march south. It took 4 days. 4 days of riding, praying, sharpening sabers and loading muskets. The Polish hussars, feared for their wings and speed, led the charge. The Holy Roman Empire's soldiers followed. And with them, Elias returned to Vienna. They crested the Kahlenberg hill just before dawn. And what he saw stole the breath from his lungs. The siege camp glowed like an unholy city. Fires dotted the plain. Banners snapped. Ottoman cannons thundered. And Vienna's walls sagged under the weight of 1,000 wounds. But the sun rose behind them. And the drums began to beat. The Battle of Vienna. It began with cannon fire. The Allied armies split into flanks, pressing the Ottoman camp from both sides. Elias rode not with the cavalry, but with the scouts, guiding troops through trenches, past burning wagons, beneath falling ash. The enemy fought hard. The Janissaries were no ordinary men. They held lines even as fire rained from the heavens. But the tide turned when the hussars descended. Winged and screaming, they charged through dust and smoke. The ground shook. The Ottomans broke. And in the chaos, Elias found himself face to face with an enemy sapper near the Kartna gate. They locked eyes. The man raised a torch toward a powder barrel hidden beneath a plank. Elias didn't think, he dove, musket forgotten, and tackled the man. The torch fell. Rolled. Sputtered. It died. They both lay there, panting. The sapper reached into his coat. Elias braced for a blade. Instead, the man pulled out a letter. It bore the same seal as the imperial one Elias carried. Confused, Elias opened it. It was written in Latin. A warning, about a traitor within Vienna. About a plan to breach from the inside. The sapper had not been an Ottoman, but a defector. Too late. The city gates had already opened to the cavalry. But so had one gate open to fire. The cost. The battle was won. Vienna saved. But in the south quarter, fire took root. A traitor in the guard had signaled the Ottomans too early. Powder stores exploded. Hundreds perished. And in the center of it all, Elias found himself trapped beneath a fallen timber, his leg crushed, smoke curling around his face. He closed his eyes. But hands pulled him free. Kazimierz again. Not today, old friend. The quiet after. Vienna was never the same. The war turned, but the scars remained. Elias recovered slowly. His leg healed crooked. He could no longer scout, nor ride. But the king remembered. And so Elias became a keeper of letters, official courier for the empire. Not a glamorous post, but one of honor. Years later, when asked what he remembered most of that night, Elias didn't speak of the fire, the sabers, or the charge. He spoke of the moment, just before dawn, when he stood on the hill and saw the sun rise behind an army of nations who had chosen to stand together. "The city still lives," he said. "Because of shadows, yes. But also because of the light."